I'm Luke Schultheis, a career enrollment management leader and an advisor to myFootpath, a leading firm to re-enroll adults who've stopped attending college. Today's exciting topic is revamping onboarding, preparing students for higher education. And it's based upon a recent presentation by Dr. Lori Baker-Sperry, Professor of Women's Studies and first-year experienced faculty coordinator, along with Justin Schuch, the Interim Vice President for Student Services, both at Western Illinois University. I'd like to jump right in and ask you both maybe one of the highlights of your work, what makes you feel good when you go home, having done a long day's worth of work and certainly strategic planning along with it. Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think, of course, it always comes down to the student, right? So when you have a student that maybe has an anxiety, a concern, a struggle, and there's something that you can do to make that a little bit easier, it's the faces that you see, when you think about whether or not you're really successful.
Yeah, I think Lori took my answer, but certainly being able to work with students and help see them get across the stage. We are blessed to work with a number of students who maybe didn't think higher education was going to be something they were going to explore, or maybe they're a first generation college student like I was. And so to be able to help students not only be successful, but see some of the potential that they have and uncover that potential is really what makes me enjoy this role working with this team of people and great individuals like Lori.
It's exciting to do noble work, isn't it? You've Justin, can you comment? You've got a new president. I assume there have been some high level goals and aspirations that have been shared with the community. Could you share any of those with us?
Yeah, certainly. We are very excited. Dr. Christy Mendrip was just announced as our 13th president of Western Illinois University. She's been at the helm for us since April in an interim capacity, and very excited to have her step in as, like I said, the 13th president. Our focus will be what it has been over the past few months, which has been really expanding into some new student markets, really developing our transfer student experience, expanding our offerings for post-traditional students, as well as just revamping and looking at the overall student experience from start to finish, from application to graduation. What does that student experience look like? Dr. Mendrip, someone with some student affairs background and has been at the institution for over 27 years. So it's really helpful to have somebody in that role who knows where we should be focused. So you will see Western Illinois University focused on, again, that entire student experience over the next year or so.
That's exciting, especially when we read today in so many of the trade journals, about doom and gloom and coming in and having to get the axe out and do things that aren't fun. It sounds quite the opposite there. It sounds like an exciting bit of time for everybody. Onboarding new students helps an institution define where they are, right? We're told to start meeting students where they are. At myFootpath, what we do for the students we serve is we assess a non-cognitive variable exercise with them, and then provide some professional development opportunities to help them develop self-efficacy. You serve traditional and non-traditional students, some stronger than others academically. Lori, when they come in through the door, how do you determine which of the first year experience classes they're going to be taking?
Well, I think I would say, and Justin probably has quite a bit to add here as well, but I think the frontline people are often advisors. So one of the first things a student will do is that they will meet with their advisor and they'll start talking about their specific issues. And that advisor oftentimes really will strongly encourage them into, for example, we have a course we call University 100. It is a course that's tailored to a set of student issues, but also once that particular group of students is in that section, the instructor really tries to continue to tailor that class around those students. And so advisors will oftentimes talk to students about, maybe making that decision to enroll in University 100. Justin, what do you have to add as far as new students coming in and immediately receiving specific services based on who they are and where
Yeah,
they are?
Certainly, and I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of our academic advisors. And this has really been a part of us looking at how we're onboarding our students. So, to give a little bit of context, at our institution, previously, a student would connect with their academic advisor when they came on campus in the summer. They'd start to select classes at that point. It was more of a mass registration type environment because that worked well at the time. We've really flipped that some, and now as soon as a student is admitted and picks their orientation day, we start guiding them through the registration process to get to know them some. So they do an online module that walks them through placement items as well as some of the resources at the institution. And then they can immediately start to connect with their academic advisor via Zoom or phone or in person if they're close by. So our advisors, similar to many across the country, are extremely busy really connecting with students and understanding, trying to learn their needs. And that's where that conversation becomes very personalized. As Lori mentioned, some of our students will take University 100 and some of our other first year offerings to really align with their needs. And our academic advisors help kind of lead that conversation. Students in our REACH program, which is our conditionally admitted program, who are entering the university just below the maybe a little bit lower GPA threshold, are required to take University 100. So that's how we kind of align some of those needs with what we're offering.
I
That
think the
sounds
last
exciting.
thing, oh,
Please go ahead. Sorry, I apologize.
no, I'm sorry. The last thing I'll add is that, speaking with my faculty hat on, and then as well as staff instructors, we receive our rosters really early and constant updates. And we have a culture where we are strongly encouraged to contact students ahead of the semester start. So not only in their academic courses, but in University 100, they would have a staff instructor that would be reaching out to them, as well as the what we call Leatherneck Success Leader, which is really a peer mentor. It's an upper level student mentor that's assigned to that class, who would also have been working in a group with them over the summer and then would be contacting them as well. So we try to do as much outreach as possible before they actually come to campus. And that helps kind of address some of those issues as well.
That sounds really innovative. Having worked at a number of institutions and talking with peers, often we find that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the advising function and what the purpose is of it and how we want them to support students. And then hearing about the Leatherneck mentors, I don't think I've seen an institution that's taken that approach to bring in upper division students, during periods when they may be doing other things. Can you talk a little bit about either of you, and then the other maybe about the reporting structure at the institution and how you sort of make that all gel so nicely?
Yeah, I'll provide a little bit of background on the role, and then Lori can maybe dive in more with some of the day-to-day things that students are working with. So this was actually born out of an opportunity between student affairs and academic affairs collaborating a little differently together. Previously, our Leatherneck Success Leader position was actually about 4 different student jobs. So it was our orientation leader, our peer mentors in the classroom, a summer conference assistant type supports, as well as we had some student kind of retention focused positions throughout the academic year. And we saw a lot of overlap in responsibilities or the students interested in the roles, and realized each of those roles have a different focus throughout the year. So instead of hiring a really large 4 different teams who are busy at certain points of the year, we looked at the position, put it into one, and have found a lot of really good synergy around having the same group of students, where as soon as a student is registered for their summer orientation experience, we call it Leatherneck Launch, they're connected with that student, and then it becomes the same student who they see in person over the summer and the one that they will see in the classroom in their University 100 course. And that way they have the same guiding hand throughout, which really was a good opportunity, like I said, for us to relook at how we do some of those roles. Lori, do you want to talk through some of all the things that the Leatherneck Success Leaders are doing, particularly in the classroom?
Yeah, and I'll add that, I think a side benefit is that not only do those students, kind of again, the same group of students that would apply for a lot of different positions, end up in different positions. So not only does the first year student see kind of a cohesive group, but those students come in trained into the fall in a way that they didn't necessarily when. So for example, I worked with the peer mentor role. So we would hire students to serve in the fall in FYE courses, first year experience courses as peer mentors, but we were training maybe the week before, right? So what I get now are students that have been working together all summer. That is so effective. And the other thing is that the staff and faculty and admin in overseeing those positions are now working together in a different way also. And that has been like so helpful to kind of understand each individual role from sort of a cohesive group way. Was there anything else, Justin, that you wanted me to talk about as far as peer mentors? Okay, so I think that those are kind of the two other big benefits.
Really a fantastic model, and I hope some of the
Thanks.
viewers contact you to find out more about how you did that. We also conduct coaching for returning adults as a mean to increase retention, and it sounds like you've developed this model with 11 mentors, among other things. But you also have an on-campus program called the Connection Mapping Program. And I'm really interested in hearing more about how you determine what resources are needed for what students and when. And at the presentation, you presented, a big calendar, but it's probably very natural to you to sort of share that with us.
Sure. Yeah, certainly. Our connections mapping program is really one of our early intervention efforts to aim to identify students who might be struggling before the semester gets too far. Previously, we had some items in place that would really be set and let us know who we should be concerned about based off of factors that I would argue students didn't have a lot of control over, whether it be personal finances, ethnicity, where their school was, where they came from. And we really wanted to build a program based off of decisions students made and could we identify from the start of the semester, just based off of decisions students make, who we should be concerned about. So it's been about 7 years ago now. We started tracking and pulling together some different data sets, looking at resource use, looking at things like student meal plan usage, and if they were using their meal plan a lot or very little in the first few weeks of the semester. Are they attending different events on campus? Have they logged into the learning management system called Western Online for us? We started to pull together as many data sets as we could possibly find, rec center usage, interactions with advisors, really trying to look at, again, the decisions the students make, and could that help us predict who we might need to be concerned about. So we compile those the first 4 weeks of the semester. The end of the fifth week, we run our connections mapping program and identify students, again, who we might need to be concerned about. And each gets kind of a tiered level, kind of low, medium, high. It's been highly beneficial and effective for us to earlier be able to tell where a student might be struggling. We compile all that before any academic information is assessed. So before early warning grades, before midterm, anything like that happens. And it allows us then at week 5, earlier in the semester, to really triage our overall support for students and focus staff power in on individuals who might really need to know about campus resources support. And it helps change the conversation some with a student in week 6. If we can kind of identify, hey, it doesn't seem like you might be connected to the institution yet. Here are some things your peers are doing that they're loving. It helps change that conversation instead of a blanket, hey, everyone needs to do this. So once we compile that, we share that with academic advisors, University 100 instructors to help kind of work with some of that intervention. So it's been a really successful program for us in terms of identifying students that we should be concerned about.
And I'll add that for Western, the way the numbers hang together with connections mapping is phenomenal. So if you look at the categories that they're put in and then their eventual fall GPA, for example, Justin shares all of that information out. It's amazing for us. So it's clearly a system that works for us. And so, of course, never connecting any GPA information with names, etc. We share that. I mean, it's one thing to tell first-year students, you need to be engaged, you need to be engaged. It's another thing to literally show them the data from the year before and say, leaving your residence hall room, going to the rec center, eating in the residence hall, visiting the writing center, all of these different measures really does make a difference. Look at last year. so not only are we able to intervene, and Justin's office is so phenomenal with that on an individual level with students in their categories, but we're also able to like show real evidence to the students in the following year and the next year and the next year that this really does work. And it has been so much more successful than just trying to tell them that they need to get involved.
I've got it. That's fantastic. And I've got maybe a double-barreled question for you. Oftentimes we'll see an institution that, looks back, last term, our retention was this. What are you going to do differently, kind of a thing. It sounds to me like this has become more of an institutional discussion and culture. And I'm interested in hearing, do you get questions? Do you report out regularly on some of these metrics to other stakeholders at the institution, A? And B, has it affected your access to resources? Have you been successful if you've attempted to request additional resources for certain activities and that kind of a thing?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's a great question for sure. At this point, and I'm biased because I work with the program directly, but I think you'd have to work pretty hard to not be aware of the conversation around our connections mapping process and data if you work at the institution. Not everyone's going to be able to articulate what it is, but the conversation around get connected to this institution is I would say more pervasive. And I believe that certainly as within those first few weeks, everyone here is talking about, hey, try to get connected with this organization or go to this event. And that is new for us. I mean, institutions across the country have known for a considerable amount of time the importance of getting connected. And, that's kind of base level. But to be able to show and really understand and see the benefit in our population has what helped maybe get some buy-in for people to understand that there's many important things the first week of school, but this has allowed us to reprioritize maybe some of the information that we're giving students during different times of the year. For example, as we talk about onboarding, and because of some of this connections mapping information, in the summer, we completely revamped that day-long experience. And a portion of it is that students interact with each other through some activities. One of the main goals of their summer orientation is to leave knowing other students' names. That was not the goal 7 years ago. It was about how much information can we get the student, which is certainly one tactic that I'm not saying that's a bad tactic, just saying for our students, really relooking at that and framing it around connections has been helpful. In terms of resources, it has certainly helped people understand the need to maybe realign resources throughout different times of the year. So one example I'll use is we have a very large student organization fair that happens every semester. That traditionally had been something that would be found in the third week or maybe the fourth week of the semester. Well, after not very long of seeing this type of information and really underscoring the importance of getting students connected earlier on, that's in our first week of the semester now. So we can start to look at resources in that way and how do we get them to students when they need them instead of maybe kind of fire hosing everything at once. Lori,
Yeah.
some of that was overlaid with our University 100 course and how we kind of align some of that information. I don't know if you want to talk about some of that.
Yeah, so Justin and the associate provost and I began working together in about 2018, and we started to make some really significant changes to the FYE program. And one of those changes was that we had this course called U100, and it was a graduation requirement. It was also a course that was really focused mainly on transitioning from high school to college, which is a traditional sort of way of doing it. It didn't really work for all of our students. Not all of our students are traditional, first of all, right? And there's a wide gamut between the student that comes in with some struggles and the student that's really ready for college. So we started to envision University 100 really focusing, well, of course, like on retention, right? What are these big issues? We used connections mapping data and really focusing on what do students need most from us in the form of information and support, plugging in, connecting, all of those kinds of things. One stakeholder that is often kind of difficult to pull in is, our other faculty, right? And our faculty governance structure. One of the things that we've always done is we've taken any mid-level to large changes that we're making to the first year experience program, through our faculty governance process, so that because you really want to share information with them in terms of what's happening, what the new research is, how our students are changing, all of those things. So we kind of also brought them along, so not just admin and staff, but we brought them along. And we also used a lot of the good information that they shared with us as we reworked some of the changes we made to University 100. We created new goals, right? And so those goals are really, they live in the connections mapping data. They're really centered around resources, plugging students in with resources, creating an environment where they understand that engagement is really important, sharing that out with all of those of us who work at Western, right? And so that it's a really cohesive and consistent message. Probably one of the biggest things that we did was when we sat down and really started to work on the syllabus, we realized that like every topic needs to happen in week 1, which of course that can't happen, but it did cause us to realize that a lot of the information that students were receiving in week 12, week 13, it was almost too late for some students to get that then. So we completely overhauled, and now it's an 8-week course instead of a 16-week course. We meet, twice a week instead of once, and everything is consolidated. And that really means that by midway through the semester, hopefully they have gotten the biggest pieces. That probably answers the question and more, but you can email me if you have questions about the changes that we made to University 100. We're constantly making additional changes. The last thing I'll say is we've added a new course. We've taught it for 2 years. It was just approved. We call University 102. It's academic refocus. It's for students who are on academic warning or academic probation after their first semester. And that class is really carefully constructed and created, also 8 weeks, around what we know first-year students who were not able to be successful from semester 1 to semester 2, what they really need. As Justin said, some of it's out of their control, but some of it we really can assist with and be a stopgap for. And I think to wrap that up, pulling faculty along, including faculty in these conversations, as well as administrators making decisions, and those of us working in the area, has really helped when those approvals need to go through. They not only approved 102 immediately, but they said, why have we not been doing this, right? So that's helpful.
Something you said just caught my ear. We get hired often when we're bringing in returning adults to essentially facilitate a new collective, because you've probably seen that there can be lots of different silos, and if one department doesn't talk to another, it affects how they do things and their staffing and all that sort of a thing. So we come in and smooth that out to bring in the students. But what you just mentioned was really fascinating, and it's you essentially are handpicking staff and faculty for this 102 course. Are there some criteria that you look for in general? How do you sort of vet, the right people to join the team?
Absolutely. Justin, do you want to answer that question, and I can add in?
Yeah, certainly. So for University 102, we've really tried to look at individuals who have either teaching experience with first-year students already. For that faculty component, it's team taught for a reason, to be able to have a faculty member with insight on academic affairs and the academic experience, and then someone from student affairs who can really maybe be more versed in some of the resources around campus and what the student experience outside of the classroom is. So in both, we look for individuals who work and are directly tied to students. So whatever that experience might be, Lori and I both team taught the course previously. We have, for example, an individual who's a staff member who's taught University 100 in the past and does exceptional, great job with students who we've asked, hey, would you be interested in teaching University 102? Because the connection piece of that, and I know I say the word connection so much, but it is so vital in a course like that, because the stakes are so much higher. Students have already experienced a semester. The kind of sense of how am I going to do in the university environment is gone, because they know. And then we have some of those open conversations around, okay, the last semester may not have gone as what you planned. That's okay. And So we're looking for people who can have that type of conversation from a place of care and understand that sometimes things happen. Each student in this course, the past as we have it, has a different reason for being there, and the semester didn't go the way they wanted. Not a single person. This is a very true statement. Lori and I co-taught this for 2 semesters because we were piloting it. Not a single student was in that course. Didn't find themselves because they couldn't do it. Not a single one was there because they didn't have the ability to be successful. It was a number of other reasons. So we're looking for faculty and staff members who can understand that and have those types of conversations with students.
And you'd be surprised when we send that request out, they want to do it. They're excited already. The spring staff and faculty member are working together to create materials, to work, start to gel as a team between the two of them. And it is really synergistic because there's so much that faculty don't understand about what happens outside of the classroom. And then, staff as well, unless they're teaching, they don't see that day-to-day in the classroom experience. And so the connection it's really powerful, we've found.
It sounds like you're really keeping true to your goals. And I want to read part of one of your 6 goals associated with your first year experience. And it states, you're going to establish a community of faculty and staff who understand and respond to first-year students in a timely and deliberate manner. That's very specific. That's very ambitious, and it sounds like you're really striving to meet that goal. It's not just words.
Yeah, I'm glad you focused in on that because and to your earlier point of looking at the semester after and saying what should we have done differently. The goal is really to address in a timely way student needs as they happen.
That's exciting. I've got one last question for you before I ask you if you've got some closing points that maybe I should have asked you about. Is there a point at which you might plateau? And in other words, is your aspiration that every single student, I know we always try for that, but what's your ambitious goal to be able to continue to keep people enrolled at the institution if you've identified one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the ambitious goal is that we are an institution that is responsive enough that every student does get connected in and knows that this is a place they understand their potential very early on in their academic experience. Within the first 2 weeks of the semester, a student should have at least formed some meaningful connections to our institution. That might be through a faculty member, that might be through a Leatherneck success leader, or through somebody they met in the dining hall. But to form that meaningful connection, we know that helps our students, and that should be the goal. And then more of us will be able to see them walk across the stage as we're getting ready to celebrate, December graduation here relatively soon.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree with that.
That's fantastic. What have I not asked you about that you feel compelled to share with the viewers, if anything?
Well, the last thing I'll say is that my other hat is in assessment of student learning. And so we have also revamped our assessment plan and our assessment processes around these goals. So if you are having questions about assessment, my email would be there. I'm happy to answer any questions or share our, again, always changing and sort of ongoing assessment processes with you.
I think the last thing I would add is I remember presenting at HLC, we had some people ask some questions on how do you really prioritize what information you're getting to students and at what time. And I would recommend that people embrace having a conversation with all of the faculty and staff teams who work with different operations, that it just because maybe a certain part in the summer a student doesn't need to learn about academic success tutoring does not mean it's not important, but we really have to start to look at what does a student need at this point. So in the summer, what do they need to be successful when they transition immediately to the institution? And then after that, what are those things? Because our students, just like all of us, we are used to some shorter snippets of information. Our attention gets lost. I'm the exact same way. So we have to start to adjust. And it's not a value conversation. It's not an importance conversation. It's a what do you need right now conversation. And sometimes that helps others maybe understand that one office or one operation is not more important than the other. Truly, they're all needed, just not all at the same time.
Right. Well, Dr. Lori Baker-Sperry and Justin Schuch, both of Western Illinois University, I want to thank you so much for sharing your very innovative work with us here at myFootpath. And I'd like to share your email addresses with our viewers. You've suggested you're happy to engage with them, so I'm going to read them here. It's L-Baker, B-A-K-E-R, Sperry, S-P-E-R-R-Y, at wiu.edu, and JL-SCHUCH at wiu.edu. Thank you again for joining us. Noble work you're doing. It's effective, and I hope others are able to emulate it. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it.